Hey y'all, it got dark on us this evening. Been a full day working today. Wanted to jump on here real quick. I was going to do a live video tonight, but just ran out of daylight literally this evening. Pretty busy day. Got a lot of messages today. Wanted to thank each and every one of you for the well wishes on my 53rd trip around the sun, and lots of paths taken over that few decades, I guess. But I was going to do something a little different. I had a video I come across the other evening, one I'd shared. It's actually a live walking talk a few years back here on the Washboard channel, kind of when we first got started. So most of you probably hadn't seen it. It's just an excerpt out of one. But it's one of my personal favorites. And a lot of folks ask me why I didn't go into radio, and I did for a while. You'll see in the story why I didn't stay and kind of what my background was, what my upbringing was. And I watched this a couple of times over the past few weeks, and this pretty much captures all of it. It was the day I'd found out that my childhood pastor had passed away, and lived a good life, but had a tremendous influence on me. And I know all of you can remember those heroes in your life, and he was definitely one of them. But it's a funny anecdote toward the end of the story that I don't think you could script it, because it was that funny. So you're welcome to watch it or not. But thanks again for all the birthday wishes and the smiles and texts and messages. It's just another day to walk along, isn't it? But we're blessed to see them each year. But I got to go in here and get caught up with all the well wishers on my personal timeline. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get to all of them, but I'll do my best. But if y'all have a minute, you might enjoy this. But take a look. Here's the video. Hey, y'all. She is bent to her duty. I guess it's been right at a year now that Sissy came to live on this old place with her brother Bo. A lot of water's passed under the bridge, but if you be quiet and listen, you can learn a lot from a good dog and maybe even a few chickens and turkeys. She doesn't have a Facebook. She don't watch the news. She finds peace on this old place, just living life and doing her job, hoping we might bring a little extra treat home now and then, and living. Got a call from Dad this evening. It's one of those calls that become more frequent as we age, and a lot of y'all get them. It was one of those calls where a hero had passed, and he was passing the message along. A man of great influence in my formative years. You'll never meet him on this side. But I reckon a lot of y'all have interacted and met a man just like him, or close. He was a Cajun. That's always a good start, isn't it? From Louisiana. A preacher man that gave his life to the gospel. He took on a mess in Conroe in my adolescence years. I didn't know it until after. A church that was riddled with scandal and debt. But he and his wife and his twins and his son took that church and stood by what they believed and influenced a lot of lives. I learned a lot. A lot of y'all I'm going to lose. That's fine. This ain't a churchy religious post. This is a life post. This is influence. And those that choose to click off right now, see you. Might need to hear this after all. See, I was raised hardcore Pentecostal. So what does that mean for a child of the 80s means a different life than those of your peers at high school and grade school. You see, we didn't have an option on church nights to say we didn't feel good. We were provided for, but Dad made the choice early on to drive from Huntsville, Texas down to Conroe to attend church, where I found out later had a better chance at a youth group for us kiddos to have some peers. Didn't have a TV till I won one selling fruit for FFA. I'll never forget that little 3-inch screen sitting on the kitchen table. The little portable unit wasn't designed for viewing. We'd pick up whatever we could and we'd watch a little Andy Griffith or whatever was playing. This wasn't even a Pentecostal thing. This was just a way I was raised thing. Didn't eat a canned vegetable out of a store until I was probably 15, because our HEB was right over yonder every few weekends. You can laugh, you can scoff, and time and wisdom has tempered me, but there are still some absolutes. You know what I loved about W.E. Ferris, and he passed today in his 80s, and it wasn't COVID. Just to get that straight. It was time. Man, I'll never forget, I guess my first exposure to chickens was under his ministry as I played Hot Wheels under the pews. I can still see him, and family and friends will relate. It's probably a sermon he preached several times, but he'd come over that pulpit, and he was a country pastor, and all the trappings of what you might stereotype a Pentecostal doctrine to be weren't there. He loved people, and he let God's grace take care of the rest of it. But he was preaching one night, and I don't remember what the context was, but I remember him leaning over that pulpit, and he had his tongue out, and he was pointing to a pit. He said, a chicken has a pit. And I probably was in, goodness, probably 7th, 8th grade, but I can still see that man over that pulpit. Isn't that funny when it impacts you? I think he misconstrued whatever he had read and studied, to be honest. May it rest in peace, but a chicken don't have a pip on its tongue. I've come to find out it's on the beak as they come out of that shell, but whatever the point was, I missed it that night, but I remember that. A loving guy, and I'm going to celebrate him tonight. I hope y'all celebrate those that influenced your life in a good way, in pastoral roles. I showed a lamb. That was about as close as I got to agriculture in my high school years. We lived in town and mixed in those circles. I was in FFA because I come from that. But we lived in town. We bought a lamb. His name was Champ, and my dad broke his back trying to make a pen there in town, and never forget that we'd run that thing at Stewart Elementary around that old playground, and he was closer than a dog. I mean, he did not want me out of his sight. But we sold that lamb. 12th place it was. Didn't hit the grand champion. And I sat there at the auction barn at the show. And I wasn't in the inner circle of agriculture in that time. That's okay. Wasn't popular. Because goodness, we was too busy adhering to our faith to be in all the extracurricular activities, if you would. And that was okay. I appreciate that more now than I ever have. But 12th place I got. I walked that lamb up to the show barn, and the auction was happening. All the local businessmen were bidding and trying to support the youth, and I didn't even know what was happening. When it was all said and done, I didn't buy it, obviously, but a coalition had come together and purchased little old Champ for just a few $100s short of the grand champion. I was blown away. We all know that's designed for our college fund, and in my ignorant youth and Dad's trust in me, I didn't go that route. I wanted to play drums, and I liked music, so didn't see me going to college. I was already working 3 jobs, and that was my path, so it is what it is. But I took that $3,000 against my dad's better judgment, and he carried me down to the drum store, and I bought a Nice set of drums so I could play them in church. If any of you have ever attended a Pentecostal church, you don't get any warning, you just play. And that's what I did. Those drums sitting in the front room, still have them to this day. But I bought me a stereo. There's a point to this story, and you're going to laugh out loud, I believe. And I decided I wanted to be a DJ before I realized that in that industry, most of them have had 4 or 5 heart attacks and as many wives and are living out of boxes. So I abandoned that dream shortly after. But I would sit in that room and pretend I was a DJ on that old RCA component system. There's a radio station still there to this day, KSAM, KHUN, on the feeder road right off of 45 there in Huntsville. Probably was 87. I was probably a junior in high school. Well, I saw that they had some jobs open. Well, I just knew I was good enough, so I rode my bike. Imagine that. Up and down those old hills for an interview, or what I thought. The old program director, I wish I could find him. He was a good friend after the years. He put me in a booth and told me to read the phone book. I thought, man, I am there. I am in this. And so I read it for about an hour and didn't know why everybody was laughing behind me. A little snot-nosed kid on a bicycle wanting a radio job. Walked out of that studio just proud as punch. He said, son, I said, well, do I get the job? He said, no, come back tomorrow. That went on for a week. Labor laws wouldn't let that happen now, but I wanted it that bad. He hired me and started working on the AM side. Got out of church on a Wednesday night over it. My pastor, Ferris, W.E., he passed today. I'll never forget. They called me after church, and I was so proud because I was making it. I was a DJ, and he loved everyone. Remember talking to him on the phone. He said, son, we're barely picking you up here in Conroe, but dedicate me a song. I'd love to hear it. It was a country music format. I didn't know much about it. Not the country part, but how to operate the equipment, so I was doing my best. So I punched the next one up, and I go into a little intro about this one's going out to my pastor down in Conroe. Hopefully only about 14 people heard it. Cody Johnson was about 4 years old at that point. He probably heard it. He wouldn't remember it. Thank goodness. And the music started. And when the lyrics hit, I realized what I had done. Talk about embarrassed I was. I could not get under that control board. I couldn't stop the song, didn't know how to do it, just let it roll. I got another phone call. It was my pastor, W.E. Ferris, absolutely rolling and laughing and telling me what a good job I had done, and thank you so much for dedicating that song. Hank Williams Jr. bellered out the words of Whiskey Bent and Hellbound to my Pentecostal pastor that night. And right now, if he's looking down from heaven, he's still laughing over that one. And that's something. But he passed today, and he's earned his reward. A life well lived and well past the 70 years of the Bible. But, a man that loved. I saw real leadership in those days. Still do, under the pastor I sit under today. Country, real, resolved, but not dogmatic. We have to learn to love, don't we? The summer blues are here. I've really caught